He didn't ask for applause, he didn't seek praise or accolades. He gave a warning, a stark and urgent message that resonated far beyond the walls of that auditorium. It was a warning born of deep concern and profound understanding. Africa stands at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in its history, a juncture where choices will define its destiny for generations to come. On the edge of transformation, a period of unprecedented growth and opportunity, a chance to realize its vast potential. Or disaster, a precipice overlooking a landscape of instability, conflict, and unrealized dreams. This was no comforting speech, no sugar-coated platitudes, no empty promises to pacify the masses, but a call to consciousness, a wake-up call to a continent teetering on the brink, a plea for introspection and decisive action, delivered with the urgency, the raw emotion, and the unwavering conviction of a continent's future. A future hanging in the balance, a future that demands immediate attention. The leader's words cut through the air, sharp and precise, like a surgeon's scalpel, challenging Africa to awaken, to shake off the shackles of complacency and embrace its own destiny. From complacency and dependency to break free from the cycle of reliance on external forces and forge its own path. He demanded a shift, a fundamental change in mindset, a paradigm shift in how Africa perceives itself and its role in the world. From victimhood, from dwelling on past injustices and historical grievances, to self-determination, to taking control of its own narrative and shaping its own future. From blaming the past, from constantly looking backward and allowing history to dictate its present, to owning the present, to seizing the opportunities that lie before it and building a brighter tomorrow. The message was clear, unambiguous and direct, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The path ahead is unsustainable. The current trajectory is leading towards ecological disaster and economic collapse. The choice is self-determination, charting a course towards prosperity and stability, or self-destruction. A descent into chaos and despair, a betrayal of future generations. The edge is here now, the point of no return is fast approaching, beneath our feet. The very ground we stand on is trembling. The future is a blank page, an unwritten story waiting to be told, a destiny yet to be determined. But the ink is running out. Time is slipping away. The window of opportunity is closing. Build a bridge, connect communities, foster collaboration, and create a foundation for sustainable growth, or fall into the abyss, a dark and desolate future, a consequence of inaction and indifference. The decision is ours. The power to shape our destiny lies within our hands. And time is short. Every second counts. Every action matters. The warning was delivered with conviction and clarity, not with anger, not with resentment, but with hope, with unwavering belief in the potential of the African people. That this generation will rise to the challenge, Africa might finally listen and choose the path of self-determination and sustainable progress. On a humid July morning, the air hung heavy with anticipation. At the African Union Summit, a gathering of leaders from across the continent, the atmosphere was charged with expectation and the weight of responsibility. Duma Boko, the newly elected president of Botswana, prepared to address the assembly. Few knew the storm his words would unleash. He broke tradition, defying unspoken protocols and expectations. He stepped onto the stage, not with the practiced ease of a seasoned diplomat, but with a palpable sense of purpose. Not for validation, not to bask in the fleeting glow of approval, but to deliver an inconvenient truth, a stark and unflinching assessment of the challenges facing the continent. The audience, accustomed to the predictable rhythms of diplomatic discourse, expected routine diplomacy, the usual platitudes and promises. Instead, they got a reckoning, a moment of profound self-reflection forced upon them by Boko's unwavering honesty. Boko's words landed with precision, each syllable carefully chosen, each phrase deliberately aimed at the heart of the matter. "We speak of sovereignty, but we go to bed," he continued, his voice resonating with conviction. "With the architects of our dependency, a stinging indictment of the relationships that perpetuated Africa's economic vulnerability." He exposed the contradiction, the uncomfortable gap, between Pan-African rhetoric, the lofty ideals of unity and self-determination, and the reality of backroom deals, the compromises and concessions made behind closed doors, that sell out the continent's future, mortgaging the potential of generations to come for short-term gains. The hall fell silent. A hush descended, heavy and thick with unspoken thoughts. No applause, no polite murmurs of agreement or disagreement. Just the weight of truth, hanging in the air like a palpable presence. Boko forced leaders to confront, to look inward and acknowledge their own complicity in Africa's struggles, their role in perpetuating the very problems they claimed to be solving. The silence was more powerful than any ovation, a stark and unsettling contrast to the usual displays of diplomatic fanfare. A collective admission, a silent acknowledgement of the uncomfortable truths that had been laid bare. That every word was true, that the emperor had no clothes, and that the time for pretense was over. He stripped away the diplomatic veneer, the carefully constructed facade of unity and progress, reminding leaders they are custodians, not owners, of the continent's destiny, of a sacred trust, a responsibility to protect and nurture the land and its people for generations to come. In that silence, the truth echoed, resonating far beyond the walls of the African Union Hall. Africa's future is forged in honesty, in facing the uncomfortable realities that hold it back. Not pretense, not in empty promises, but in genuine commitment to change. Boko's warning revealed two Africas, a continent of promise and peril. One Africa is rich in resources, youth and innovation poised for a renaissance. The other is plagued by corruption, weak institutions and dependency on foreign aid. These two realities cannot coexist forever. The tension is reaching a breaking point. Resource wealth has become a curse, enriching a few, while the majority remain poor. Africa's leverage is squandered by disunity and poor negotiation. Potential is not destiny. Without change, the Africa of promise will be consumed by the Africa of peril. The choice is clear: confront corruption and complacency, or let the shadow Africa extinguish the rising one. The time to choose is now. To grasp the weight of the warning, you must know the man behind it. Duma Boko is no ordinary politician. He's a former human rights lawyer and relentless opposition leader. His rise was a battle against the establishment, not a coronation. Boko's legal career shaped his belief in justice and skepticism of unchecked power. He united a fractured opposition, promising radical transparency and reform. His victory signaled a hunger for change and gave his words authenticity. Boko embodies the spirit of reform. He's lived the fight, not just spoken it. That's why his warning wasn't just heard, it was felt. Boko dissected the chains holding Africa back, both internal and external. Corruption is a systemic disease, diverting billions from public good to private pockets. Africa's youth, educated and ambitious, face a job market that can't absorb them, fueling a tragic brain drain. Externally, crushing debt and unfair trade keep Africa dependent and impoverished. Loans with hidden conditions trap nations in cycles of repayment and austerity. Africa exports raw materials cheaply, only to import expensive finished goods. These chains are locked from both inside and outside by leaders who fail to negotiate for their people. True freedom requires breaking every link. Boko's words hit hard because they exposed a truth many leaders avoid. For decades, Africa's problems were blamed on outsiders: colonialism, unfair systems. Boko dared to say the blame is also internal: leadership hypocrisy and self-interest. Leaders preach sovereignty, then sign deals that deepen dependency. The real struggle is now against a political class that prioritizes survival over progress. True sovereignty demands transparent governance and leaders who serve the many, not the few. Once spoken, this truth cannot be unheard. Boko's speech split the continent, youth versus old guard. For Africa's youth, his words were a rallying cry, validating their frustrations and hopes. Social media erupted, hashtags trended. Young people saw a leader who spoke their truth. Boko's message was a call to action, uniting a generation hungry for change. The old elites, however, saw betrayal, a breach of protocol and a threat to their power. Foreign partners responded with silence, hoping his message would fade. But the division was exposed. Africa's future belongs to those who demand honesty and action. Boko's bluntness challenged the comfortable status quo. The world was watching, and the youth were listening. The time for polite silence was over. Boko's warning carried urgency, a stark reminder of the challenges facing the continent. His words echoed the sentiments of many, highlighting the critical juncture at which Africa stands. Africa's window for change is closing fast. The opportunities for progress, for sustainable development, and for self-determination are becoming increasingly time-sensitive. The decisions made in the coming years will have profound and lasting consequences. Three forces drive this urgency. Forces that are reshaping the continent's trajectory and demanding immediate attention. These are not isolated challenges, but interconnected pressures that require a comprehensive and coordinated response. Explosive population growth, placing immense strain on resources, infrastructure, and social services. The rapid increase in population necessitates innovative solutions to ensure sustainable development and opportunity for all. Climate change, with its devastating impacts on agriculture, water resources, and livelihoods. The continent is disproportionately affected by climate change, despite contributing the least to its causes, making adaptation and resilience crucial, and shifting global power, creating both risks and opportunities for Africa's role in the international arena. As the global landscape evolves, Africa must strategically position itself to leverage its resources and influence for the benefit of its people. Africa's youth population could be a dividend, a powerful engine for economic growth and innovation, driving progress across all sectors. Investing in education, skills development, and entrepreneurship is essential to unlock the potential of this demographic. Or a disaster, leading to instability, social unrest, and missed opportunities for development. Failure to address the needs and aspirations of young people could have dire consequences for the continent's future, depending on jobs and opportunity. Creating meaningful employment and fostering an environment conducive to entrepreneurship are paramount to harnessing the demographic dividend. Climate change threatens food security, exacerbating existing vulnerabilities and undermining efforts to achieve sustainable agriculture. Addressing climate change is therefore crucial for ensuring food security and building resilient food systems, and stability, leading to displacement, conflict, and humanitarian crises. The impacts of climate change are not just environmental, they are deeply intertwined with social, economic, and political stability, demanding immediate action. The urgency of the climate crisis requires bold and decisive measures to mitigate its impacts and build a more sustainable future. The world's power dynamics are shifting, creating new alliances, new rivalries, and new opportunities for influence. Africa must navigate this complex landscape strategically to advance its interests and shape the global agenda. Africa can seize new opportunities, leveraging its resources, its talent, and its strategic location to drive economic growth and development. The continent has the potential to become a major player in the global economy, or remain a pawn, subject to the whims of external powers and trapped in a cycle of dependency. The choice is Africa's to make. The time for incremental change is over. The challenges are too great, and the stakes are too high for half measures. Bold and transformative action is needed to address the pressing issues facing the continent. Decisions made now will shape the next century. The choices made by African leaders today will determine the continent's trajectory for generations to come. Unite or be divided, working together to address common challenges and build a stronger, more prosperous future. Division and fragmentation will only weaken the continent and make it more vulnerable to external forces. Act or be acted upon. Africa must take control of its own destiny, shaping its own future rather than being shaped by others. The window to build, to create, to innovate, and to invest in a better future is open, but it is closing rapidly. Adapt and lead is now. Africa must embrace innovation, adapt to changing circumstances, and take a leading role in shaping the global agenda. Miss it, and Africa risks trading, its hard-won independence, and its potential for self-determination. One set of masters for another. The continent must avoid repeating the mistakes of the past and chart its own course towards a more equitable and sustainable future. The future depends on what we do today. The actions taken today will determine the kind of future that Africa's youth will inherit. Boko's warning wasn't just talk. It's being put to the test in Botswana. His government launched a war on corruption with independent investigations and radical transparency. All major contracts are public. Officials must declare assets. The era of enrichment is over. Botswana is demanding value addition at home, not just exporting raw diamonds. The goal: build local industry, create jobs, and break the cycle of extraction. New partnerships are forged on Botswana's terms, prioritizing technology and local benefit. It's a bold experiment. Can Botswana pivot from commodities to a knowledge economy? The Botswana Blueprint is a statement of intent. Warnings only matter if we act. This is Insight Africa, where uncomfortable truths become unfinished revolutions. This is Insight Africa.